So while the Democrats were putting on their bread and circus show at what they like to call their Democrat National Convention, this was happening.
Chicago police say 2 men are responsible for an armed robbery spree that began on the first night of the DNC and continued through yesterday morning.
Let's get right to our Megan Hickey. She's live from one of the robbery scenes in the Loop. And Megan, CPD says they're investigating reports that one of the victims is a delegate here at the convention.
Right, this morning, Superintendent Snelling said he didn't have any specific details about that delegate's involvement, but today, CPD sent out an alert about 3 people being robbed at gunpoint here near Randolph and Wells, and the suspect description in that case matches that of incidents in Chinatown and in the West Loop. The first robbery took place during President Biden's speech on the first night of the Democratic National Convention around 10:30 Monday night on this block in Chinatown. In each of the robberies, a dark blue Land Rover Discovery with Illinois plate DJ87261 drove up to the victims. A group of men jumped out of the car armed with a handgun and threatened to kill the victims. The victims then handed over their cell phones and wallets. The same crew did it again early Tuesday morning, this time in the 300 block of North Morgan Street in the West Loop. Then on Wednesday morning,
victim was robbed by offenders in a black Range Rover.
Another round of victims. CPD said a 25-year-old man was on the sidewalk outside a hotel when the SUV approached. A guy with a gun took his belongings and then walked across the street and did the same thing to a 37-year-old man and a 40-year-old woman.
It looks like a wallet and a hotel key were taken.
Delegates are packed into many downtown hotels, and with the late nights at the United Center likely to be out in the early morning hours. When asked about a delegate being one of the victims, Superintendent Snelling said,
obviously, there was something there, but we're still looking a little deeper into that to get more information on.
Snelling cautioned that the spree was not indicative of a spike in crime, which they tried to avoid by making sure to keep enough officers on their neighborhood beats during the convention.
Are we seeing still some of the normal crime that we see on a daily basis? Yes. But what we did not do was deplete the neighborhoods of manpower.
CPD says they're looking for 2 men dressed in black with ski masks and a semi-automatic handgun in each of these cases. Anyone with information is asked to contact CPD. Live in the Loop, Megan Hickey, CBS News Chicago Investigators.
Okay, Megan, thank you.
Yep, you heard that right. A Texas Democrat delegate was robbed at gunpoint in Chicago. The same Chicago that has every gun control law you can think of. And yet, here we are. Criminals still getting their hands on guns like it's nothing. Should I really need to point out the irony here? I shouldn't, but you know I have to. Because too many people forget that criminals don't care about gun control laws. They just don't. But I have to ask this question. What genius thought it was a good idea to hold the DNC in Chicago, of all places? A city that makes it as hard as possible for law-abiding citizens to carry a gun to protect themselves, considering the amount of crime that they deal with on a regular basis. Sure, they've got a system in place now, thanks to the courts, but let's not pretend it's a walk in the park to get a concealed carry license in Chicago. Look, I gotta say, being robbed by your own constituency has to be uncomfortably sobering as fuck. But walking around Chicago at 2 a.m. without a gun, that's just diabolical. I wouldn't walk to my mailbox at 2 a.m. without a gun. I wouldn't step outside my front door at 2 a.m. without a gun. And these two were in Gotham City just casually making their way downtown unarmed on some Vanessa Carlton Eat, Pray, Love journey. But that's what happens when you live in the fantasy world in your head and think the government is gonna keep you safe. When I'm diving into these types of 2A stories, I'm not just skimming one source and then calling it a day. I dig deep, checking out multiple articles, videos, and perspectives. And recently, I've started using Ground News, who is a sponsor of today's video. So Ground News is an app or website that pulls together all of the world's news in one spot, so you can see how different outlets are covering the same story. And honestly, it's been a real eye-opener for me. Now, I've been checking out this particular story that I'm talking about on Ground News, and guess what? Out of the 13 articles covering this robbery, 9 of them are from right-leaning outlets. None, and I mean 0, are from the left, and only 1 from the center. So it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Why would left-leaning media shy away from covering stuff like this? Could it be that they don't want to admit that their gun control paradise isn't so safe after all? I assume there have been more of these types of robberies, but they're just not being reported to avoid any bad publicity. Except for the right and the center who are reporting on it. And this lack of coverage is exactly why I do my defensive gun series. The left-wing media won't touch those kind of stories, so people really believe they never happen. But the truth is, They happen all of the time. So another beautiful thing about ground news is it lets you see through the bias by showing all sides of the story. You can literally compare headlines and see how different outlets spin the same event. And in this case, the spin or lack thereof is pretty telling. So if you're serious about staying informed, head over to ground.news/Colion and you'll get 40% off of the Vantage subscription, which gives you unlimited access to everything Ground News has to offer. By subscribing, you're not only getting a better way to read the news, but you're also directly supporting my work. So go ahead and scan the QR code or click the link in the description section, the ground.news/Colion. Now, in a city that's supposed to be the poster child for gun control, we've got Democrat delegates getting robbed at gunpoint, and the media that should be all over this is nowhere to be found. But that's why I do what I do, to cover the stories that no one else will. So stay safe, stay informed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Politicians and tech giants don't want gun content to be recommended to you, and we're all fighting this culture war together. Now, you can help do your part by liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel, but most importantly, sharing this video with at least one person. Together, we can stop the suppression of our 2A rights. And don't forget to click the link in the description section of this video for the products that I mentioned in this video.